981, which is our detailed analysis of the national newspaper headlines. We have Mr. C. Good morning, Mr. C.
Good morning, Aya. Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Lakune. Good morning, Lagos.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We also have Lakunle Yusuf. Morning, Lakunle. How are you today?
I'm good. Good morning, everyone in the studio. Ayo, Valentine, Mr. C.
All right.
Good morning, the world.
Thank you very much. I was hoping you'd come in wearing a touch of green in the spirit of Independence Day because you didn't come on Friday. So I don't know if I should call you unpatriotic Nigerians.
I actually wore white and green on Friday.
Oh, well done. Well done. Good, good. Mr. C, did you wear white and green? We're going to turn off your mic today. All right. So this is how you can be a part of the conversation. Please head on to our YouTube channel. We're streaming live on YouTube. Search for Smooth 981 FM Lagos there, and you'd find us. Send your comments through that platform too.
You can also send your comments through WhatsApp. WhatsApp number is 0809 0981. We start with the first story here from the Punch newspaper.
All right, I'm doing that one. Okay, so anti-open grazing law. Federal government backs herders' planned suit against South governors. Police differ on enforcement. Interesting story, you know. Mr. C, when I saw this headline, I was thinking, another anti-open grazing law. Are we not done with this story? Of course, I know we're not yet done, but having looked at the details of this story, it's definitely worth talking about this morning. The federal government on Sunday threw its weight behind moves by herdsmen to sue southern governors over the anti-open grazing bill they recently signed into law. The Special Assistant Media to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Dr. Umar Gwandu, disclosed this in an interview with The Punch, said Nigerians whose rights had been violated could go to court to seek protection. I'm glad that you're a lawyer, and so I want to first of all ask around his statement around Nigerians whose rights have been violated. In what ways would you or can the rights of a Nigerian be violated based on the laws that have been passed by some southern governors, southern states in Nigeria? And I'll just take an excerpt from what the Mieti Allah Kautal Hore group have said. They said that the passage of the law in the southern states is satanic and politically motivated, that the governors, they will sue the governors over the law. Their national secretary, Sela Al-Hassan, threatened that the group would sue the southern governors. What merit would they have, Mr. C? And again, you know, how have the southern governors infringed on the rights of these people?
Okay, thank you very much, Aya. So, the Special Assistant to the Minister of Justice did say that Nigerians whose rights have been threatened can go to court to seek redress. But that is a correct statement of the law.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, in this particular case, have the rights been threatened or violated? Now, what is the background to this story? Very quickly, in times past, we've had this open grazing where you have herders and cattle move from the north down to the south of Nigeria in search of pasture, in search of food for the cattle. And this has gone on for many years. Now, recently, it has become a sticking point because some of these herders with their cattle go into farmlands populated and owned by farmers predominantly from the southern part of Nigeria, eat and destroy the crops there, and do not offer restitution. In some cases where they are made to provide restitution, they do it most reluctantly. Now, there have been repeated calls that open grazing is no longer sustainable given the present times, and that it should switch to ranching. The cattle are kept in a fixed location, you feed them there, you grow them there, you rear them there, and you possibly sell them there. And the truth of the matter is, ranching is more beneficial to the cattle owners and the herders. Now, the state governors, through their respective houses of assemblies, have passed laws banning open grazing. Now, whether Mieti Allah likes it or not, the houses of assembly are the constitutionally recognized platform for the enactment of laws within states. Those laws do not have to favor them. Now, we must remember something. Grazing, cattle rearing is a private venture.
Right.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Given given the current security challenges we're facing, given the clashes and the repeated loss of lives in attacks between the two groups, it's a mystery to me why the federal government will be supporting such a move.
Yeah.
Now, 2 weeks ago, I spoke here about a move by the Ondo State government where they got some of these cattle herders to consider a fixed lot system, which is similar to ranching, and they seem to buy into it. Now, why are the herders against ranching? Do they have ulterior motives? Because the people who own the land are saying, look, we don't want it. You cannot impose your will upon a people,
Yeah.
upon a people who have validly enacted laws. Whether or not it is a practice that was passed down to your forefathers, practices evolve, people adapt. There was a time where it was considered okay to kill twins. Now it's no longer okay.
Yeah.
So if they want to maintain peace, and the federal government, I'm sorry to say this, appears to be fanning the divided dichotomy between the north and the south with statements like this. Now, if you say or you suggest that the rights of the cattle herders are being threatened, you have to juxtapose that right or hold that right against the general right of the other people, including the farmers. We don't, for a global city or states who aspire to become global states, you can't have cattle roaming around the place.
All right, thank you. That brings me to Temitope's comment on WhatsApp from Yaba. Temitope from Yaba.
Temitope said federal government backing anti-open grazing law. Meanwhile, cows invaded and caused traffic on Third Mainland Bridge by Adeniji this morning. This country is an auto cruise. Shaking my head. I'd like to. I mean, the question I wanted to ask. Okay, so I was going to ask you, Mr. C. Couldn't the same be said about the federal government in terms of having ulterior motives in trying to push this agenda? Because previously they were just suspicions, they were just rumors, they were just sometimes unfounded allegations, as described by even the same federal government, that the federal government is supporting the northern leaders or, is pushing for an agenda to Islamize the country. Isn't this being giving credit to those allegations?
Yes, you're correct. And like I said, it's adding fuel to the matter. Now, this government is supposed to be a government for all Nigerians, not for some Nigerians, not for a particular group of Nigerians. Now, why is it so important, almost bordering on life and death, that herders must be allowed to continue to open graze? The people are saying there is no land for you to do that. And if there's no land, why are you not reading the signs? Why is the government pretending to be tone deaf, pretending not to feel the pulse of the people it's supposedly governing in their best interest?
Yeah.
And if they go to court, I'm sorry to say this, I'm not sure how they're going to convince a competent court of jurisdiction that their rights precede and dominate and override the rights of other Nigerians who simply don't want open grazing. Stay in your states.
All right, thank you very much. I just wanted to point out, we don't have it in the headline story today, but the Guardian reported that 5 northern states joined the Federal Inland Revenue Service, that's FIRS, in VAT dispute against Rivers, Lagos State. Again, just pointing to the fact that they are fueling this dichotomy between the north and the south. And I just want to remind everyone of the president's speech when he took office the first time. He said, I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody.
So in a way contradicting that statement, well, I mean, like we do, we hold him to account. But let's get to this story from the Punch, also from the Punch. Lakunle, troops foil attack on repentant terrorist camp in Borno. The Nigerian army, they said the battalion, the gallant troops of 25 Task Force Brigade Operation Hadinkai, they overpowered the terrorists who withdrew in disarray and ensured Amba did not fall to the antics. The Islamic State of West African Province in Borno have been said to have attacked the facilities of repentant terrorists where they were kept, but the military troops were up to the standard to push them away, to repel the attack. What are your thoughts regarding this and the consequence or the implications of such attacks on repentant terrorists?
Okay, so let me start by saying congratulations to the Nigerian military for success in repelling this attack. one of the things that we've always spoken about on this matter is when you arrest these people, what do you do with them? Do you just keep them in
Two.
the repentant
Okay. Terrorists.
terrorists? When you arrest them, when they surrender voluntarily, what do you do with them? Do you hold them for holding sake? Do you want to prosecute? Do you want to let them just go? Do you reintegrate them into the society? For how long are you holding them to achieve all this? That's one aspect of it. The other aspect then is, if you hold them, how come the facility you are holding them at becomes a matter of public knowledge, such that people or however will know? It probably then suggests that there possibly are two things: one, people on the inside who gives this information; two, people who has passed through the process, who you have supposedly reintegrated in society, who has gone back to give the information to the terrorists to come do the attack. So, in my opinion, I think that one of the first things to possibly do is, when you have these people, why don't you arrange to move them entirely away from the focus of the war to, say, a neutral location somewhere far from these locations where this kind of attacks can happen? Because the intent of this, according to this report, is that, according to the army spokesperson, is that the terrorists are getting frustrated that because they are losing men to voluntary surrendering and casualties during whatever, they want to actually get these ones back to join them. So if that's the reason, don't put them in a place where it will be enticing for them to want to get them.
So
Take them
what would you
further
rather they're
away.
taken to the south?
Well, that's within the military. They don't have to disclose where it will be. Once they move them there, for example, where do we keep Nigeria, the armory of the Nigerian military? They don't tell us all that as well.
So, I mean, most of us, arguably, we know the locations of Nigerian armory, the military units.
We are guessing.
The barracks.
We're guessing.
It's public knowledge.
That they're in the bar. Of course, they will be in the barracks, but which barracks?
So, I don't think it's a matter necessarily of,
So
clandestine operations.
don't let us lose the focus. Don't let us lose the focus of this report. Because where they are is open secret. Everybody knows where they are. That's why they go there. How about if they don't know where they are?
So here's what I'm trying to point out: the fact that these attacks are happening on repentant terrorists, isn't it a direct implication of the fact that the terrorists are losing the war, and this is an act of desperation? And how can the military take advantage of this position, the body language?
Yes, those are the two things I've actually spoken to. One, that they are losing. That's why they want to get these people back, because they don't have more men to fight.
Do you really think they wanted to get them
That's
back, or just
retaliation
of leaving?
Let's assume that what the Nigerian army spokesperson has said is correct, that they are attacking the place to capture these people and get them back to their side. That's one. Two, the other side then is that what is our own plan beyond planning to reintegrate them? If we want to reintegrate them, like we say, why are we keeping them in a place that is close to where this kind of attacks can happen? That's my point. I'm not for whether it is good or bad, but if we want to, it's just like you pick what's it called, fried meat, and you keep a cat to be watching over it. That's what we have done with this. It's so easy for them to adapt, but if it's a remote place further away from where they are, maybe this kind of attacks won't happen.
One point really, and me speaking personally, is just the fact that this is happening, and it's a clear indication of the fact that they're using the words an act of desperation. Thank you so much, Lakure. Let's move on to this next story. Still on the punch. We'll have messages.
All right, so from Jane says, I don't understand where cattle herders carry weapons and destroy people's income and some lives, and the federal government wants to back them. Why didn't they back protesters? They weren't armed. They only cried for a better Nigeria for Nigerians, and they were deemed as terrorists. See how the government chokes small businesses with tax and all sorts, and they're not being backed up. I really don't get the leaders.
Thank you so much for that message. Justin here says, they should move the terrorist to Asoro. That's being seen. Oh, by the way, Yinka, I was asking a question. It wasn't a statement, right? This Department of State Services and the Federal Road Safety Corps offices in Nnewi, Anambra states on Sunday, they said, and it's still described as yet to be identified gunmen. They said that's the troubling part of these kind of stories. They operated for several hours. Mr. C, please help us make sense of this.
I'll try my best. So, yet again, unknown gunmen have struck in another part of the country. Now, let's not forget, elections are soon going to be conducted in a number of states. So, it may or may not be unconnected with the upcoming elections. But what is very disturbing for me is, yeah, the FRSC office, there's usually no security there.
Little to no security.
If unknown gunmen can confidently attack a DSS office to the point that they can burn it down, a number of questions have to come up. One, when the DSS office was attacked, where were the operatives attached to that office? That's the first question. Two, when the attack started, what steps did they take? Did they radio for help? Did they call for help? Did the police stations in the area, or the other security agencies within that town or close to that town, what was their response? So it's very disturbing, and again, it speaks to the general insecurity in the land. Forget what the government tells you. Each day they tell you, oh, we have it under control, our efforts are beginning to yield fruit. Incidents like this happen, and we're taken back to the starting point. And it's alarming for some Nigerians, at least some Nigerians, because if the security agencies who should ordinarily protect you and get information that will lead to your protection can't even protect themselves.
But aren't you curious at the fact that they operated in four sports utility vehicles, SUVs? I mean, do you expect unknown gunmen who are probably just foot soldiers running with SUVs, or people who have some sort of strong backing?
No, clearly they have strong backing. And that explains why they operated for hours without any disturbance. Because think about it. You had an attack like that, the police would have to rush out. The army response units within that area would have to rush out. Nobody came out, and guess what? No head will roll. Nobody will be sanctioned. Now, the TSS, how come they were going to attack your office? You did not get any intelligence warning you about it.
Being the top intelligence office or agency.
No, apart from that, they have the National Intelligence Agency, but normally the DSS will come out to tell us they've uncovered plots that to do this, to do that.
Weeks before.
Yes, when it's against the government.
Right.
Right. I think it's important to note, like what you said, that heads won't see anybody being caught. Just took my mind back to the NDA attack happened I think by a month now. We haven't heard any concrete information with regards to apprehensions, arrests, conviction, nothing.
They say that, they say that update that they're investigating the matter and they're still on the process.
All right. Okay. Let's see how that unfolds. And let's move on to our next story from Premium Times. Lakune, withdraw impermissible conditions on Twitter. Serap tells Buhari. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged the president to urgently withdraw what they've described the impermissible conditions imposed on Twitter pending the final determination of the suit at the ECOWAS Court of Justice in Abuja, challenging the legality of the suspension of Twitter to allow the court to render a decision on the central issues in the case and protect the plaintiff's interests and rights. Now, when this, obviously, we know SERAP had sued the federal government to the ECOWAS court following the ban on Twitter. In the presidential speech on Friday for the Independence Day celebration of Nigeria, the president did mention that with some conditions, they were going to lift the ban on Twitter. This hasn't been effected, by the way, but SERAP has come out to say that they shouldn't even put any conditions because the matter is still in court. The court determined if it is even legal, what they've done, and before they start doing that. What do you think? We keep getting numbers of how businesses have suffered. The amount of money being lost by young Nigerians by the ban of Twitter. What do you make of this story?
Okay, don't let us forget that this matter of suspension is being contested, people suggested that the ban itself was much like using the state's power to settle some kind of perceived personal slights on behalf of whoever it is, whatever it is, however. Okay, so if a matter is in courts already, what between two parties, generally the general rule is nobody should have an opinion about that case or discuss the case until the case has been settled, or the person can be charged with
making statements that are prejudicial to the court
process and can be slammed with a bench warrant for arrest or whatever based on that. So Mr. President's interjection to say that he's placing conditions on a matter that's already in court, in my opinion, I think that it's sub judice of the process already.
Right.
I think that the people who wrote that speech for Mr. President to read did not possibly take that into consideration. Now, the important thing in this matter is the case, the court to say, look, you are right, you are wrong, you have no powers to do that, you could do that. If the court make those pronouncements, then we can now say that, okay, now that we are where we are, this is what we should do. But the government in itself should be seen like like many things. And even when the father is right, you should be able to say to the children, look, I know this is what you have done, which is wrong, but let us see it from this other perspective. I would allow you to continue to do this based on so and so. I mean, there was no reason for us to get to where we are now. It's about 4 months, 3-4 months that we have been on this matter. And while people are out there whose sources of livelihood subsist on this particular app, I think that, and this is the same government who thinks that they need to make more money, particularly from taxes.
Yeah.
So we are restricting these people from making money so that they can pay their taxes. But there are so many things that are tied to this thing that I think that the government should take a second look at itself and make restitution as it were. I think that there are enough laws in Nigeria, as it were, really, to actually handle the things that we banned this thing for. There's a law for sedition.
Yeah.
There's a law against defamation of character.
Yeah.
There is one against, which other is the other, the popular one, defamation of character and libel.
Libel, yes.
There are laws for all of these things already.
I have a question from Prince. I just wanted to, as we wrap up this sermon, it says, who are the parties in court? I don't see any prejudice in the statement since Twitter and federal government are not in court. Is that correct?
Sarah took the federal government to court.
Exactly.
So the case is between Sarah and government. So anything that you're going to say that is about that case is subjudice to the case in court. Because federal government is a party and the federal government is represented by the president in this matter.
Okay, thank you very much. Just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. C, let's get to this story from this day newspaper. IPMAN, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association in Calabar, threatening to shut down depots and 400 petrol stations owned by its members over what it described as incessant harassment by the police. They made a few damning allegations, one of which is that the police is trying to wade into their matter, their political issues, administrative issues, to try to impose a leader, and by inference, overstepping their bounds. What are your thoughts regarding this dispute and the implications of the strike if it has to happen?
Okay, thank you. So IPMAN is the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria. Now, 3-4 years ago, maybe possibly 5, they had some issues with regards to the leadership of the association, and the case had to go through the various levels of the Nigerian judicial system and finally terminated with a Supreme Court decision that was delivered in 2019. Now, the 2019 Supreme Court decision recognized the particular faction of IPMAN as the authentic leadership. Now, what has since transpired is the aggrieved parties and lawsuits at the Supreme Court has been going round from zone to zone, trying to use the police to overturn a Supreme Court judgment. And they went to Port Harcourt, it was resisted, so they moved to the Calabar zone. Now, the Calabar zone comprises of marketers based in Cross River, Akwa Ibom, and Benue states. So, if the Calabar zone of Ipman shuts down, these are the states that will be affected. Now, when this starts, God forbid, Nupeng or Pengasin decide to join the strike in solidarity. Now, the big question here is what is the interest of the Nigerian police force in who runs a petroleum marketers association?
Who else could it possibly involve that would have such powers as to influence the police to work in their favor?
It's sad to say this, and I'm sorry I have to say this on air. Once you have money, some bit of influence, you can get the police to do what you want.
So it could be any rich man whose interest is being trampled on.
Yes, and it's sad to say this. The police have no stake in petroleum matters. It's not one of the matters covered in the Nigerian Police Act.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. We have a story here from this day newspaper. Luckily, the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) has called on telecom subscribers to complete their NIN SIM integration process before the October 31 deadline to avoid disconnection. Is this the 4th, 5th, 6th deadline? Because we're now confused, okay, I don't know, let me not speak for everybody. Some people are confused. But let me look around this room. Have we all integrated our NIN SIM? Have you integrated yours, Mr. C?
I have.
I have, hopefully.
Well, before Lakuni jumps in, I just have a question and I hope he gets to answer it. The terrorists, the bandits in the north, that are using Nigerian SIMs to kidnap people and conduct their business, where did they do their NIN registration?
They haven't, so they're part of the people they're looking to bar from the services. Unfortunately, they keep pushing the deadline, so they haven't been barred yet. So they're meant to be captured, even if they haven't. But
No. The reason why I say is that, okay, leave the NIN. To get a SIM, you must have done some sort of biometric capturing.
You send your friend to do it.
Who's the friend?
Okay, so
It's about opening the links, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying, absolutely. But I wish we were employed to the DSS. Maybe we'll do more investigation, not discrediting the DSS.
Well,
but
the
just saying-
DSS, it's been said that the DSS know these people, know the sponsors, know they
So
have
it's a
the
matter of
identities.
time then.
It's a matter of will.
okay,
So
so
expose.
okay, so
All right, luckily, take us.
this
through
is
the-
one of the challenges we have when you spend so much time on a lot of activities and no progress. A matter like this was first, this idea of a national registration, national identification numbering was first muted in 1978. That's more than 40 years ago. Okay, and here we are today. We are supposed to be 200 million. At the last count, we were told that only 64 million people have registered for the national. So does that suggest to us that we are either not 200 million or something else? So that's just the background of the story itself. Now, to the story itself, to answer Mr. C's question.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you go to Obalende just right there, you can buy a SIM that's already been pre-registered.
Really?
Wow.
Even
does it happen?
the
Break it down
NCC
for
itself
us.
says it, that there are quite a number of SIMs that have been pre-registered out there, that if you bought it and whatever happens, don't pre-register. They even said it in one of their
How
earliest
do they
communication.
track those who have been pre-registered and the consequences for that?
See, the anyhowness out here is so much. Me as any telco, my first instinct at the beginning, even before this, was to make money. I didn't care who registered the SIM. I just want to make money from the use of the SIM. Okay, but now when it's becoming a matter of security, a matter of safety, now it is very important that everybody goes out there, the SIM you have in your hand, go and confirm that you are the one that is registered to use that SIM.
Yeah.
That's very important now.
Yes.
Okay, so the other question about where do they get SIMs from? What they do, from one experience of somebody that was kidnapped that I read, the person said they actually took his phone and they asked him to show them the number of a relative or friend they could call. So they
Okay.
used his phone
All right.
to call for the ransom.
All right.
So whether they have SIMs now or not, that may not, because they've devised another way to reach the loved ones of the victims. That's another part. Another level again is also that um this matter we're talking about is something that the shutting down of communication, whatever, in
Yeah.
some states
Yeah.
now. They're saying, okay, if we localize this action to a state, we shut down everybody there for now, and we can get in there and get rid of all of them. The important thing now for us to is, let's even close this registration. Let's close it and let's see the number of people who have not registered. Then you now go and do the registration all over again. The businesses will lose money. That's another problem with ease of doing business in Nigeria on
Yeah.
its own itself.
All right, we need to go, unfortunately. However, I'm sure that we'll take this further during Lagos Talks 981 and just break it down again. In terms of the deadline, October 31. If you haven't integrated your SIM, please do so now. We will do a few comments and then we'll wrap up. Sheon says, no need to bar the bandits. They can be triangulated or pinpointed, then apprehended. The bank accounts they use, yeah.
As simple as that.
Ada from Ikoyi.
That says, good morning, Uncle Lakunle. That analogy is questionable. PMB is not a father figure for the nation, nor can he be. He's an elected leader. How he does his job or doesn't do his job is a different matter. Twitter is not his child to be disciplined. Neither are we. He's fighting for cows on Third Mainland Bridge, Abi. Do have a good day.
All right, thank you very much, Ada. Last comment here from Yinka saying, where will they capture or arrest them, Ayo? At the NIN center? The ones UAE told us about, have we gone after their relatives or friends for possible links? Big questions there. Hopefully we can answer this and many more during Lagos Talks 91. A big thanks to our analysts. Thank you, Mr. C. And thank you, Lakunle. Lakunle is at Lakunle70, while Mr. C is at Mr. C on social media. You can follow us at Smooth981. Let's talk, for Lagos Talks 91 in 8 minutes, actually, at 8:10 a.m. Stay tuned on Smooth 98.1.